ABC30 Action News live at 11 starts now.
Holiday destinations now empty after evacuations. Flames threaten structures in 2 Central California counties, forcing hundreds of residents to leave their homes and all they own.
I just left everything.
The creek fire exploding in size in a matter of hours after breaking out Friday evening, first impacting the communities of Shaver Lake, Big Creek, and Huntington Lake.
I cried all the way home. All the way home.
Go, 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 go.
Bass Lake evacuated and mountain communities staying on alert, while fire officials confirm structures have burned. But the flames are so dangerous, crews cannot assess property damage.
Your heart's just beating. I mean, it's surreal. You know, you kind of always expect it, but you hope it doesn't happen.
This is complete insanity.
The size of the creek fire exploded in hot, dry, and windy conditions. And tonight, officials called this blaze in a class of its own among dangerous wildfires.
The creek fire has charred more than 135,000 acres with no containment. Here's a map showing the reach of this fire across the Sierra. The 2 most concerning areas are on the south side near the communities of Shaver Lake and Auberry, and on the west side near North Fork and Bass Lake. There's no official word yet on the number of structures that may be damaged or destroyed, but more than 5,000 are still threatened at this hour. And it could be days before we know just how many homes and businesses may have been touched or damaged by the fire. Nearly 1,000 firefighters are working to protect homes and gain some control of these flames. A state of emergency has been declared by Governor Newsom for Madera, Fresno, and Mariposa counties. The declaration will help the state deploy additional resources to tackle it.
We have live team coverage tonight as we continue to watch new evacuation orders, the firefight, and the weather conditions fueling the flames. Let's first turn to Kevin Musso, who's monitoring where the fire is right now, where the flames just jumped Highway 168. Kevin?
It appears that. Now, I want you guys to look very closely at this. We have a hot spot. It is verified right now by the plume of smoke that is blooming right there over Highway 168 along the top end of the 4-lane. As we move in a little bit tighter, we're going to get closer as we go. We saw flames on video and right and around behind Crestman at the top end of the 4-lane. Now we're also getting reports of spot fires over the top of 168 along the Peterson Road area. This plume showing the downsloping winds, and very likely there's a fire down there on both sides of 168 beginning to downslope into the canyon below the 4-lane. So that is pointed down in the direction, of course, of Pine Flat. You see Trimmer there, but there's other mountain communities that are down a little bit lower than that as well. You're looking at Toll House to the left. Burro Valley Road is there, and also Watts Valley Road. As we move in tighter, Pine Ridge and just above it near Crestman's is the flare-up location that I'm talking about here. And we are getting reports that we do have spot fires south of 168 moving down the canyon. So I wanted to get right to that right away. I'm going to work on getting more information on this, and we'll talk about the other fire dangers and the overnights from a mono wind event that's expected in the early morning hours for Tuesday coming up.
All right, Kevin, thank you. Let's get some more information on what you were just talking about. Action News reporter Gilbert Maguillon continues our team coverage from Highway 168, where the CHP officers are being told to leave their posts tonight. What's that all about, Gilbert?
Well, that's right, Warren. In just the last 30 minutes or so, CHP officers who were at the top of the 4-lane here on Highway 168 were advised to leave their posts because of those rapid spreading flames. You just heard Kevin talk about that, but you'll see behind me this red, eerie glow in the skyline. It's actually a little dim from what it was about an hour or so ago, but when we first made our way out here to the bottom of the 4-lane, it was pitch black, but now this has somewhat illuminated the sky. Apart from that, though, we're told that currently the efforts that authorities or their efforts are being placed towards saving lives and then property right after that. But just a few minutes ago, though, we did see about half a dozen fire engines make their way up Highway 168 in attempts to control the creek fire.
This is an unprecedented fire. This is one of the largest and most dangerous fires in the history of Fresno County.
The creek fire has also proved to be destructive, with crews reporting massive losses of structures, including homes near the community of Big Creek. The fire is so dangerous, crews can't go in and assess damages.
To be frank about it, Shaver Lake and Huntington Lake are still burning.
The heat, rugged terrain, and smoke are also creating a multitude of challenges. Monday morning, all air operations were grounded because of the thick black smoke. Many of those flames fueled by dead trees. Previous years of drought have resulted in the perfect conditions for a fast-moving fire.
You have a very dry fuel. It's very receptive and a lot of it. And that makes firefighting difficult because now you have these trees that are just, they're explosive.
As the blaze burns in all directions, authorities are warning people to be ready to leave. Fresno County Sheriff's deputies estimate that 20 to 35,000 people have already been evacuated. Lieutenant Brandon Purcell says more are on the way.
We're in uncharted territory with the amount of evacuations and with the speed of the fire that it's spreading. So playing that game of how long can I wait, it's just foolish.
Purcell says so far every warning that has been issued has turned into an evacuation order. They expect those orders to stay in place for a long time. Deputies along with police officers will continue patrolling evacuated areas to make sure homes and businesses don't get broken into. Now, authorities tell us that the creek fire is spreading in all directions. Most of that activity right now happening in the Huntington Lake and Shaver Lake area. And overnight crews are concerned, as Kevin has mentioned, those winds that could make some of these flames very erratic. For now in Fresno County, Gilbert Maguione, ABC30 Action News.
Be a sleepless night. Thank you, Gilbert. Well, many people are still stuck tonight after flames block their way out. Action News reporter Natalie Granda continues our live team coverage at Fresno Yosemite International Airport with a rescue mission expected to happen later tonight. Natalie?
Well, Margot, that mission was expected to start at 8 o'clock. It was actually pushed back to 10:30 because of those unsafe conditions. We have seen 2 Blackhawks depart from here at the California Army National Guard base. We are told that a Chinook is also expected to leave out tonight. And again, this was all delayed because of those unsafe conditions. What we do know from Fresno fire officials that spoke to us earlier here is that there's at least 50 people that need to be rescued in 3 different locations, including China Peak and Edison Lake. We also know that they have confirmed a fatality. Now, I do have more information on that as well. The Fresno County Sheriff's Office recently released just moments ago that a person did die, but they're saying that it's a medically related issue and not directly related to the fire. Now, what I can tell you about this rescue mission is that the National Guard did attempt to try and rescue what they say are several campers and hikers earlier today, but again, those conditions were too unsafe. National Guard officials say their Chinook helicopters have infrared technology that works better at night. However, they still need smoke conditions to improve before they can get to the area. At this time, Fresno fire officials did not have any information on that person that died. Fresno County Sheriff's Office officials tell us that there are deputies with people stuck at Edison Lake, at Vermilion Valley Resort, and China Peak, and that they are all safe at this time. They also say there's a total of 200 people stuck in the Sierra National Forest at this time across 4 different refuge areas. Fresno fire officials say it could take multiple missions to get those people out depending on their locations and fire conditions. And they do want to make clear that it is the National Guard that's doing this rescue mission. They are here to help the folks that are evacuated and get them reunited with their families or get them to the Red Cross where they can get some help.
If they are injured, they're going to be triaged, treated, and transported. If they're not injured, we're going to collect them in the armory over here, where we're going to have the efforts of reunification with their families.
Now, National Guard officials say the duration of this mission really depends on the conditions. It could take at the very least an hour, but it could take even longer. Now, what you're seeing here back live, there's several buses here in place. That's for when these evacuees come back, and if they're not reunited with their family, these buses will take them to the Red Cross so they can get help in finding shelter, get some resources. Again, that's if their families are not already here waiting for them. We're going to find out more about when the Chinook is expected to take off and head off to these rescues, and we'll bring that to you both on air and online. But for now, live in East Central Fresno, I'm Natalie Granda, ABC30 Action News.
Natalie, thank you. And of course, hoping for the best outcome for the Cal Guard and for those evacuees tonight. Bass Lake and much of the surrounding area were added to the mandatory evacuation list this evening as the flames move toward those communities.
Action News anchor Sarah Sandrick has been covering the impacts on Madera County throughout the day. She joins us now live near Cascadel Woods with what we're seeing there tonight. Sarah?
Well, Margot and Warren, we have been all over Madera County today, and this is one of the spots where we can really see that orange glow of the flames still tonight. When we were in Bass Lake a few hours ago, we did not see active fire there at that time, but this blaze has been so fast-moving and erratic that authorities are not taking any chances. The glow of burning brush and trees covers the hillside near North Fork as firefighters continue to keep a close eye on the structures below. The quiet of the night from this vantage point is a stark contrast to the rush of activity earlier in the day as deputies went door to door telling everyone to evacuate.
First time in 20 years here that I had to leave my house, and my dogs are in the car right now, and it's terrible.
Hundreds of evacuees went to the Oakhurst Community Center in hopes of getting help with temporary housing and other resources from the Red Cross.
It's hard with kids, so we're trying to be as comfortable and calm as we can, even though we're really worried about our homes.
Jim Wilson and his wife live near Bass Lake and had packed a travel trailer full of essentials by the time mandatory evacuations were ordered there.
It was strange because we've been watching the warnings, and I kind of expected to see something on my phone, but then all of a sudden the helicopter flew over with the intercom going and the siren blaring saying, get out, this, it's time to evacuate now.
As we drove around the Bass Lake area, we saw Madera County deputies stopping at homes and Merced County deputies set up outside Ducey's at the Pines Resort. The nearest visible flames were off in the distance near North Fork, but the creek fire has proven repeatedly that it can make a dangerous run in a matter of minutes. And now here's another live look at the fire line that's still simmering along this hillside east of North Fork. This does not look nearly as intense as what we saw near this same area last night, which is of course welcome news for everyone in Madera County. But as we continue to hear, the threat is far from over, and we are going to continue to keep you updated from this area as well. Live near Cascadel Woods, Sarah Sandrick, ABC30 Action News.
Thank you, Sarah. And we want to give you the very latest information that came in moments ago from the U.S. Forest Service. The acreage of fire that has burned is still at 135,000 acres, 0% containment. But now these new numbers, 65 structures have been destroyed and 5,296 homes are still threatened and remain in the path of the creek fire.
From what we know earlier, a lot of those homes could have been in Big Creek, where we saw half the homes destroyed there over the weekend. Now back to those winds that Kevin had mentioned. They could force power outages for PG&E customers in 22 counties. The shutdowns are to prevent down power lines from sparking more wildfires. PG&E is warning of public safety power shutoffs that could impact 172,000 customers. Those outages could begin as soon as tonight, and if the power does go off in parts of the state, restoration will likely not happen until Wednesday night. The utility company says strong winds, as Kevin forecasted, through Wednesday will create critical fire weather and high ignition risk. Some of the counties impacted include Placer, Kern, and Mariposa counties.
And just a reminder, you'll find our new ABC30 air quality and wildfire tracker maps on our website. You can stay up to date with the latest information on wildfires burning in Central California and throughout the state. You can also check out how the smoke is impacting our valley air.
Also, this quick note, the creek fire could threaten the transmitter location for ABC30 in Meadow Lakes. There is a potential for an interruption of our signal as the flames move closer to that area. We will do all we can to make sure that doesn't happen, but if it does, you can always get up-to-the-minute information and all of our programming live on our website, abc30.com, and our connected TV apps.
Rescuers give a first-hand account of a life-saving mission.
Flying into the creek fire, National Guard members talk about the tense moments they landed near the flames to airlift dozens of people to safety.
Employees are returning to work at the Foster Farms plant in Livingston. Merced County's health department says the facility met the needed requirements and employees went back on the job around 9:30 tonight. The plant was forced to close for days for deep cleaning after a COVID-19 outbreak was declared in late June. Nearly 400 employees tested positive for the coronavirus and 8 people died. All 1,400 employees were tested twice and had to have 2 negative tests before they could return to work.
4 burn victims injured in the creek fire remain in the hospital tonight. Medical staff say 4 people are receiving treatment at Community Regional Medical Center, and they are expected to be okay. 3 others have been discharged from the Fresno hospital, and 2 others were released from Clovis Community Hospital.
The National Guard team that rescued hundreds of people trapped by the creek fire over the weekend is talking about the tense moments of the life-saving mission. The crew of the CH-47 Chinook and UH-60 Blackhawk said they took women and children out first as flames continued to burn closer to the Mammoth Pool Reservoir in the Sierra National Forest. When they landed by the lake, the fire line was only 50 to 75 feet from the aircraft. And while danger surrounded them, they focused on getting people to safety instead of on the stress.
On each list, I looked them in the eyes and asked them, hey, are you ready for another? And every single time they said, yes, send me out one more time. And they were 100% committed to getting every individual out that day. And they were so committed. When I told them they would have to come back the next day to do some more, they said, very happily, I'd be happy to do it.
The Chinook crew members say the smoke was so thick, many of them became nauseated. The Chinook and Blackhawk pilots both described it as the most dangerous mission they'd ever been on in their careers, which have spanned more than 2 decades.
The weather is a critical factor in the battle against the creek fire.
Kevin's tracking the wind and other conditions on the fire lines. Kevin?
Yeah, the biggest dynamic right now that's going to impact what's happening this evening through all of tomorrow with this fire is the wind. I want to take you right to the Storm 130 area because we have an emphasis to show you here right along 168, an area of a flare-up, as you can see. The radar shows it as a column moving from the ground upward, so it's able to see it as the radar sweeps around. It's the radar ball, by the way, in Hanford. It's very likely that we have some very intense fire burning there, not only along 168, but south of 168, beginning to move down into the ravine above the 4-lane. As we move in tighter, you get a better fix on this. It's to the northeast of Toll House, and it's literally right at Pine Ridge. You can see right there 168, and we appear to have some pretty intense smoke on both sides of the highway there, and we are getting reports of spot fires possibly down around Peterson Road running parallel to 168. This is a pretty impressive amount of smoke that's being generated, and right now the wind flow, you guys, is out of the northwest, but we're about to see a shift in the overnight hours to a pattern that many of us are familiar with. It's called a mono wind pattern. It's when these strong easterly winds downslope down the canyons and drainage basin ravines at very high speeds. The pattern is in place for that to happen. So I've simulated the fire here. Now what happens is as those downsloping winds move in, it can push and scatter that fire downhill. And obviously it's a drying effect and a heating effect by downsloping winds. So the advancement of the fire is very possible in the overnight hours, early tomorrow morning, especially around daybreak, and then throughout the afternoon. You see the pattern set up right here and the highest fire threat capabilities. Now I'm going to show you from Futurecast as I zoom on in. This is at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, showing that we have a blast of air coming out of the east there. These are sustained winds at 13 to 24 miles per hour, probably gusting more likely up to 40 or 50 miles per hour down the canyons. And that right there is even tomorrow night with an easterly at 23 over Oakhurst. So you get the idea of the component of the wind tomorrow and factoring in fire behavior. Air quality forecast, unhealthy in Fresno as well as Madera County. That's also because of the downsloping winds. Don't be surprised to wake up tomorrow morning to very thick smoke in parts of the valley, especially if you're in eastern Fresno County or in Tulare County. Right now, a northwest wind at 3 in Fresno. Calm winds in the valley, but the pattern is setting up in the overnight hours, and this mono wind pattern that we're familiar with does that. It happens in the overnight from around midnight to about the daybreak time is the peak time for those moto events to develop. So here we see for tomorrow, hazy sunshine all throughout the mountains and the foothills, and temperatures are going to be above average. With our sunshine, we're going to be at 102 for Fresno tomorrow and upper 90s as we move through the remainder of next week. A lot to talk about in the weather department. Wind is the factor for tonight and tomorrow.
Absolutely. We'll be keeping an eye on that all night long. I know you will, Kevin. Get the coffee going. Well, dozens of people are waiting to be rescued tonight after flames made it just too dangerous for them to get home.
Let's go back to Action News reporter Natalie Granda, who spoke to a man whose son is sheltering in place at Edison Lake tonight. Natalie?
Well, Warren and Margot, the good news is that man says his son is safe. He's actually with deputies just waiting to be rescued. We were told this rescue mission was supposed to start at 8. It was pushed to 10:30 because of the unsafe conditions. So far, we've seen 2 Blackhawks depart here from Fresno Yosemite International Airport. We're waiting still on that Chinook to head out. We were told it was supposed to leave in just a little bit. Now, again, 50 people that need to be rescued in 3 different locations. That includes China Peak and Edison Lake. We also got confirmation that a person died. However, the Fresno County Sheriff's Office did say that this person died from what seems to be a medical issue and is not fire related. Now, the National Guard did try to attempt this rescue earlier today, but again, because of that really bad smoke and the really unhealthy air conditions, they weren't able to get in there, and so they had to suspend that rescue. Now, the Fresno County Sheriff's Office tells us that these deputies are with those folks that are stuck at Edison Lake, at Vermilion Valley Resort, and China Peak. Again, we spoke to that parent whose son, Isaac Rodriguez, was up in that area. He went to go backpack with some friends on Friday. He's now also at Vermilion Valley Resort, and he's there with several other evacuees, again, just waiting to get out.
They're allowing him to communicate with us through a satellite phone, so he's called us at least 3 or 4 times today, kind of telling us, giving us updates on what's going on. He feels like, feels like there's what their information they're getting, that they're safe, that they're going to be okay, and we know that there's a fire marshal with them and a sheriff also that went up there and are up there with them, kind of stuck with them too.
Now, I can tell you here at the scene, there's several families that are just waiting to get some sort of answer, to hopefully see some family members that will be rescued, hopefully fairly soon. Now, there are also buses here that are ready to take some of those evacuees to the Red Cross to get some shelter, some resources if their families are not here waiting for them. We'll have more both on air and online as we get that information. But for now, live in East Central Fresno, I'm Natalie Granda, ABC30 Action News.
All right, Natalie, thank you much. A fire on 168 tonight delayed dozens of people from being escorted out of Shaver Lake.
Our Bree Mellon's family was among those who had to wait for hours until finally they were taken down the hill. She'll bring us their story right after the break.
The Creek Fire hit close to home tonight for our sports anchor, Bree Mellon.
Her family was trapped at Shaver Lake all night because of the Creek Fire, and she joins us now here in the studio on the scary situation for her own loved ones. Bree?
Yeah, my uncle and cousin were backpacking in the Dinky Creek wilderness this weekend. They stayed at the Courtright Reservoir Thursday night and began hiking Friday morning.
Eric and Caleb Levine are Eagle Scouts and avid backpackers. On Saturday morning, they hiked up to a ridge and noticed smoke. Within the hour, this giant plume cloud grew. My cousin captured this on his GoPro.
Really surprised there was a group that came in. 168 was already closed. And they said, oh, yeah, we knew a back road. And so we took a back road. I think it goes through Pine Flat Reservoir. I'm like, well, if they didn't think it was too bad to take a back road to go backpacking, it must not be too bad for us.
Later in the day, they went fishing around Island Lake, and it started getting really dark. Ash began to fall, and they decided they would pack up early and head out today.
And as we were hiking out, it got darker and darker until the sun was like, the sun was gone at that point, but the sky was like a dark, dark red. It was almost bad if we had to pull out our headlamps so we could hike on the trail. It was that dangerous.
They said the scariest part was they didn't know how close they were to the fire or what direction it was headed. They had no choice but to keep going straight to get back to their truck.
We knew that someone would come get us if it was really bad. We had no idea how bad it was until we got into self-service and we started getting texts from people checking in on us and all these evacuation orders. Our phones were blowing up.
Obviously, had we known it was that bad, we would have left yesterday.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, we had no idea it was that bad.
When they made their way back out, they were stopped by a police officer. He told them to go the opposite direction around the whole other side of the lake. Once there, they sat in a parking lot for 3 hours, waiting to be escorted down.
Sure enough, everybody else, there's like 30 other cars down here. I think we're next in line to go down.
This is video of them driving down. My uncle said the town of Shaver Lake is still intact. There are firefighters standing in front of storefronts. He wanted to thank the Fresno police who were walking around to each car, checking in and offering them water.
Very nice of them to do. And Bree, we're sure glad to hear that your family is safe tonight, out of the fire zone. More people and property remain in jeopardy tonight because of the creek fire.
We'll update the situation with the wildfire burning and growing so fast in both Fresno and Madera counties tonight.
Here's the latest now on the creek fire. The flames have jumped Highway 168 at this hour below Cressman's, forcing the CHP officers down the 4-lane. The flames have exploded in hot, dry, and windy conditions, and tonight officials say this blaze is in a class of its own among dangerous wildfires.
The creek fire has now charred more than 135,000 acres with no containment. And we just learned tonight from the U.S. Forest Service at least 65 structures have been destroyed and more than 5,000 others are still threatened. Nearly 1,000 firefighters are working around the clock to protect homes and try to gain some control of the flames. A state of emergency has been declared by Governor Gavin Newsom for Madera, Fresno, and Mariposa counties. That declaration will help the state deploy additional resources to tackle the creek fire. And that wraps up tonight's edition of Action News, live at 11.
Thanks for joining us. Jimmy Kimmel Live is up next, followed by Nightline. Action News continues tomorrow with AM Live starting at 4:30. And of course, they'll have the very latest on the creek fire, the evacuations, and the firefight. Good night, everybody. Be safe.